Good morning again, and welcome. I'm so glad to see you here today with us. I am Gloria Lawler, and I am the county lead for Dementia Friendly America, Prince George's County. Across the United States, an estimated 5.1 million people aged 65 and older are living with Alzheimer's disease, the most common form of dementia. And that number is expected to reach 7.1 million in the next decade. Nearly 60% of people with dementia live in their own communities, and that's a good thing. 1 in 7 live by themselves, creating an urgent need for our communities to support people with dementia and their care partners, which we oftentimes refer to as caregivers. Today, Dementia Friendly Prince George's County presents Dementia, Caregiving, and Transportation. Today, we will focus on a very important topic, and that's why we're all here in this room together. That topic is the challenges and opportunities for addressing the mobility needs of individuals with dementia and their care partners / caregivers. Again, welcome. We are so happy that you plan and you're able to join us this morning. Thank you so much. Virginia, come on out, won't you? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Lawler. I want to say that on behalf of the National Aging and Disability Transportation Center, of which I'm co-director, and N4A, where I work, I'm very excited to be here and particularly want to express my appreciation for this opportunity that has been provided by Dementia Friendly Prince George's County. N4A and NADTC, and NADTC stands for the National Aging and Disability Transportation Center, are very grateful for this partnership that has made this meeting possible. I want to remind everyone in the room that we are being videotaped. On your table are release forms, photo release forms, and we ask everyone to please make sure that you sign it and turn it in at the back of the room to my colleague, Yolanda Stewart. Yolanda's back there. Let me say a couple of things about transportation to begin our discussion. It probably will come as no big surprise to folks in this room that most caregivers, approximately 78% of caregivers nationally, either provide transportation for their loved ones or arrange transportation. And we know that sometimes that can create hardship and challenges. And that's what we're here today to talk about. We want to put a face on some of those challenges, some of those hardships, and also some of the opportunities to make things better. I also, in videotaping this event, I want you to know that you all are leading the way in a very important effort. This videotape is going to be part of a course on caregiving and transportation that's being offered nationally. Up to now, we have about 100 people who have registered for that course, which has already begun. And the videotape of this meeting is a very important part of the course. It's an opportunity for other communities around the country to learn about how to have a conversation on caregiving and transportation in their own communities. So you all are definitely being pioneers here today, and we so appreciate your willingness to work on this. I also want to acknowledge a few people before the panel comes up here who have really worked hard to make today possible. Certainly Gloria Lala, who everyone knows in the room. Dr. Claudia Thorne, who you'll be hearing from in a little bit, talking about our panel. And Shonda Bellamy from Picket Fences, whose organizational skills have been outstanding. I also want to acknowledge a couple of my colleagues. Jean Anthony, who works on Dementia Friendly America, who has really been by my side throughout the planning and organization of this meeting. And Joellen Lavelle, who has also been an important partner. And finally, I want to acknowledge Yolanda Stewart, who is my colleague at the NADTC, the National Aging and Disability Transportation Center. And I also, as the panel is coming up, I want to acknowledge everyone in the room. I so appreciate your willingness to be here today to help us make this a reality, because while some of us will be talking to you, we think that probably the heart of this meeting is the opportunity to hear from you. You will have an opportunity to ask questions. There are 3x5 cards on the table. And during the panel presentations, if you hear something and you're not quite sure that you fully understand it, or you want to know more about it, or it resonates with you and you have a question related to what the panelists say, we hope that you will indeed write your questions down. Someone will be collecting your questions at your table, and after the panel has finished their presentations, then they will bring the questions to me, and we'll get to as many of those questions as possible. We think that's very, very important. And then, of course, not to steal any thunder from Dr. Thorne, but after the panel is done and our discussion up here is finished, then we will have some interactive discussion at your table, and we have some questions that we're hoping that people are going to discuss. So again, this meeting is yours. You can make the content. What has been on your mind, the challenges and issues that you face as a family caregiver are really what we want to hear, focused on the area of transportation and mobility. So thank you very much. We're going to begin with Benita Spikes, an individual who is living with dementia. She's a former nurse, an organizer and advocate for families of murder victims.
Well, my daughter initially started out as my caregiver, but as any mother would, I don't take but so many orders from my children. So the Department of Aging has been a lifesaver with offering all their services. And I have great neighbors. I have the NAACP. I have a good support group. So I'm very grateful for that. And I think there is a need, a great need, because a lot of people in my senior building has the same issue, and they don't always have the support they need.
And Benita, could you tell us how you travel around? Who takes you to doctor's appointments and other kinds of ways in which you stay connected to the community?
Well, I'm in the NAACP and Coalition Labor Union Women, so we do voter registration and different projects throughout the community. I get around by Metro Access, my major way to get around. And my sometimes friends, close friends, can take me to appointments and events, but Metro Access is my main line of, because the bus services are not that, they don't run often in my area, and they don't run long throughout the day. So usually, and sometimes the Department of Aging actually sends someone to take me to the events that I go to.
Okay. And how has that worked for you? Has that helped you get where and when you need to go?
Yeah, if I didn't have the Department of Aging helping me, I would be in my house. I would not know what was going on. And because I'm in a senior building, but they don't supply the transportation for you to get to, they take us to the grocery store and stuff, but they don't take you to events and meetings.
So with the help of the Department for the Aging,
And a couple of neighbors, you know.
and
Yeah.
neighbors and friends, family members. Do you have family members?
Not family members. I don't have anybody that lives close now.
Okay.
So
Okay.
mostly, yeah, y'all are my family.
And I think one of the critical issues probably for you is that you don't want to just go to the doctor, which of course is very important, but to stay connected with the community. And so you feel like you're able to continue that.
I still feel relevant, which is so important to me. So as long as I can still feel relevant, I'm very happy. I'm content. But I have a couple of girlfriends. Someone always goes to the doctor with me. Because what I think I hear and what they write down is completely different usually. I'll be like, he didn't tell me that. And she's like, I got it printed. She gets a printout. This is what we talked about. This is what, I know what you're thinking, but this is what we're doing. And we put I have signs in my bedroom. I can't go out the front door without texting 3 people. I'm out the bathroom, brush your teeth, take your shower. I mean, I need the signs and I use them. And we have checklists that I don't leave home without somebody having text me back. And even my neighbors know. They'd be like, well, who's coming to get you? And where? I'll wait with you till your ride get here. So.
And I think you brought up something really critically important, that sometimes needing a ride someplace isn't all you need. Sometimes you need someone to help you get in and out of the vehicle, to remind you of where you're going, and even to be with you at the destination. So
Absolutely.
It sounds like you've got all the bases covered. But
Absolutely.
Excellent.
Yeah, they come to my appointments. They come in the appointment with me. They don't just sit in the waiting room. Because I often translate what I think I've heard, and it's usually nothing like what's really going on. So.
Well, thank you, Benita, for sharing your experience with us. We really appreciate it. So our next speaker is Gwendolyn Graves. And Gwendolyn is a care partner. She's a caregiver for her 88-year-old parent who lives with Alzheimer's. So Gwen?
Good morning, everyone. I initially became a care partner last year when my mother, who is now 88, was then 87, had lived with my sister for over 24 years. My sister decided that she wanted to relocate to California to be closer to her son. And the original plan was that Mom was going to go to California. As the plans progressed and the time got to, Mom decided that I'm not going and you can't make me go, and I'm an independent person. I want to go live in a senior home. So we started trying to find affordable, reliable housing for Mom. We were saved because she has a sister who lives in Bethesda and said she can come stay with me. So the plan was to move Mom to Bethesda. We would change her. Kaiser is her medical provider. We would change the doctors to closer to Kensington, and she would still see the specialist in Largo. Well, as I assumed the responsibilities for taking her back and forth to those appointments, I was noticing some things that I had never seen before, and I was concerned. I didn't know whether they were associated with the move or there was really a problem. So after talking to her doctor, we did some testing, and that's when we found out that Mom had Alzheimer's. So that completely changed everything. She could still live with my aunt, and my aunt was willing to keep her. But instead of transporting her a short distance, and because she was having a lot of problems, she was feeling disrespected. She was feeling that people were making decisions and nobody was telling her what to do, and I'm the mother and the grandmother and you can't tell me what to do. I made some changes and plans. I decided to keep her primary care physicians and the physicians that she saw in the Camp Springs office. So what I would do is I would pick her up the day before her doctor's appointments, and I would bring her to my house, and she would stay with me overnight. I would take her to do her doctor's appointments and anything else she wanted to do in the area that she was used to traveling in. and then take her back to Bethesda. We continued to do this until her primary care physician left Kaiser. So I talked to her and said, well, what about we now have somebody closer to where in Kensington? And I told her about the young lady. We went and made an appointment. She was happy with that. So I switched and I just would schedule her appointments after rush hour traffic, because I'm going from Fort Washington to Bethesda to pick her up, to go to Kensington, and sometimes come down to Largo. And that pretty much takes your day. And when you do that, she wants to stop at the grocery store. She wants to do a little thing, because it's still really important to her that she maintains her quality of life. She goes to church every week. She goes to the hairdresser. She has a friend, a group that they do. The lady sells hats, and there's a group, and they model the hats, and they go, and she's one of the senior models, and she's just really good in sales because everybody likes a senior lady. And she's a sharp dresser. When she's the type, when she goes to church, she's head to toe matching and all. So it was very important that she be able to do those things. However, our original transportation plan was that before the Alzheimer's diagnosis, that mom could use Metro Access, and she would come to the facility, and I would meet her there, and then either I would take her back or maybe put her back on Metro Access, depending on what we were going to do that day. That went away because mom can't travel by herself. She has to have someone with her. You can't drop her at the facility and expect that she's going to get in to register and go to the doctor's office. When she was in Bethesda, I was initially excited because I saw a lot of the opportunities for transportation, but they're all intra-county. And we don't live intra-county. We travel Maryland, DC, Virginia, around the metro area. So that opportunity to have a cab take her to her friend in DC was not going to work. So we had to go back again to the family, me, my brother, and my cousin primarily, taking her to church, taking her to visit her friends, taking her social activities, and we've even used Uber. I started using Uber because she got mad at me one time and she couldn't go somewhere because she'd been in the hospital and she wasn't supposed to go. So she called somebody who she knew had Uber and had them take her. So I called the person and said, please, from now on, if she calls you for an Uber, please come with us because she has dementia. She doesn't really, and she shouldn't be places. So we use Uber. She has a medical condition that recently flared up, and she has to have blood testing a couple times a week. Within the last month, I've been in the hospital back and forth. I'm worn out. So my sister and I decided we're paying someone now to do the transportation, to pick her up and to take her for the blood testing and to take her back home with explicit instructions. This is what we do. You go these steps, and you can't let her loose because she will take it among herself to go do what she wants to do. One of my biggest concerns, as I said, is making sure that she's 88, she likes to do things, she still has her sense of independence, and she is the mother. You don't tell me what to do. I am the mother, I am the grandmother, and so that's often a push and pull thing. I'm always with her in her doctor's appointments. As she said, her friends are with her, and we print out the printouts and we give her the paper, and she tells me, well, she loses it. She said, you all need to come up with a way so that I don't lose anything. So anything that I give her is printed on yellow paper. We put it in a binder. She's got a copy. Everybody on her caregiver team has a copy. My aunt has a copy because she also forgets what she's supposed to do and what's going to happen. So that's important for her. I'm in that age, I'm a baby boomer. A lot of my friends are now doing this, and a lot of us are the primary sources of transportation. And I have a friend that is particularly troubling to me, and I'm glad I'm having the opportunity to speak at this conference because my friend is legally blind. She lost her privileges for driving years ago. She lives on disability from her job because she's not old enough yet to collect Social Security. Her mother is in her early 80s. They both have Metro Access. However, my friend lives 100 yards from the boundary, so she can't use Metro Access to pick her up at her house. So she was able to go to her mother to all of her appointments. Her mother, who was still driving, would pick her up and drive the 4 miles to her house. My friend's mother recently lost her driving privileges because of problems with the mobility. She could no longer drive. So my friend now, for the 4-mile distance between her house to her mother's house, has to pay for a cab, which is $13 one way. So that's $26 living on a fixed income. That's a lot for her. She has to travel, get someone. If she can't get a friend, she has to take the transportation through a cab. She goes and uses the Metro Access, goes to her mother's appointments with her mother. It's apparent that her mother is not going to be able to live in her housing much longer. So the family would like for her to move in with my friend. However, the big concern is that if her mother moves in with her, she loses her transportation. So she's in a quandary, and you're trying to balance care for your parent, the cost of assisted living and those types of things, where she could probably live with her mother if there's a solution for transportation. And once again, we all love our parents and all the people that we're caring for, and we want them to have the best quality of life possible. And we don't live in an area where everybody lives in Prince George's County or Montgomery County. We Zoom across, we have relationships and doctor's appointments and social, events all over the place. So it's really important to me, and I'm glad to have this opportunity, because if there's someone, as people think about the needs of caregivers and patients living with dementia and all patients who need assistance, that you think about how we transport, and we could hopefully come up with a plan where services are available, where people could go like they live, where they need. Because my mother is a Kaiser, Kaiser's her provider. Kaiser is all over the place. Kaiser sends you to Gaithersburg. They send you to their, they have their specialists in one area. They have their primary. So you're traveling all over the place. And as you said, most of that burden is on family. I'm getting older. My siblings are getting older. We prepared for our retirement, but I didn't necessarily prepare for mom. So now I'm shouldering mom along with mine, and a lot of my friends are doing that same thing. It's something we love, we do, but there is something that we're hoping that can be helped to address those needs and ease some of those concerns and burdens. And thank you very much for inviting me to speak at this and giving me this opportunity to share my story. Thank you.
Well, I think Gwen has underscored the complexity of this very topic. And we all say a lot of times, let's make a plan, but making a plan is not always a straightforward process. Our next speakers are really going to be talking a little bit about resources and opportunities to get around the community. So I hope you all will listen carefully to what they have to say. But before I introduce Sarah, I just want to remind everybody, you do have those 3x5 cards on your tables. I hope you are thinking of questions that you may want to ask. So Sarah Fott is the coordinator of Village Rides at the Jewish Council for the Aging. And I'm just going to leave your introduction at that, because I know you're going to explain what Village Rides is. Sarah.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for inviting me to be here. Just as a personal note, I am the coordinator of the JCA Village Rides program, but I also was a caregiver for my mom for several years. My mom had dementia. So I look at this from both sides of the coin. Village Rides is a free program offered by JCA, the Jewish Council for the Aging, and we support villages and community organizations in Prince George's County and Montgomery County with volunteer transportation programs. Village Rides was created as an offshoot of the village movement, and for just as explanation for folks who may not be familiar with the concept of a village, villages are local, volunteer-led grassroots organizations that support members who choose to age in place. These villages foster social connections through activities and events, and they do coordinate volunteer help using the neighbor helping neighbor concept. Each village is unique and really reflects the personality and the characteristics of the community that created it. For example, some villages might charge a membership fee, others don't. It really does depend upon that particular community. In this model, where there are volunteer transportation programs, we have neighbors driving seniors and adults with disabilities who are no longer driving. There are close to 200 villages in the United States and roughly 50 in the DC metro area. Village Rides is currently working with 3 villages in Prince George's County. That includes Hyattsville Aging in Place, and that really covers folks who live in the city of Hyattsville. There's Helping Hands University Park, folks who live in the University Park, the town of, and Neighbors Helping Neighbors College Park, and that is folks who live in College Park. The way that these programs work, we support these 3 villages. They all have either existing or burgeoning volunteer driver programs who will help members who live in their community. And caregivers are encouraged to ride along if there are seniors who might need a little bit of support. There are other neighborhood-based volunteer driving programs in the county that I'm aware of. One is Cheverly Village. Another is Gives, and that is based in Greenbelt. And then there is Fish of Greater Bowie. These are just wonderful programs, but of course the challenge is that they are very community-oriented and geographically focused. So if someone does not live in a particular area, in one of these areas, the services are not available to them. So that's kind of the good news, bad news of these programs. JCA, in addition to supporting this Village Rides program, there are some other programs that we offer, not necessarily, some are transportation related, some are not. I just want to mention them here because they may be of value to some of you folks. One is the Senior Helpline, and that is an free information referral service on senior services that include housing and home care, et cetera. The other service is Connect a Ride, which is a transportation information service. And there are transportation specialists that answer the phone that might be able to provide information about transportation options available to folks, not necessarily just volunteer, but public transportation and other paid services. Although primarily we do have information about Montgomery County, we do also provide information about Prince George's County, what we are aware of. And in the back of the room, I have brought some flyers on the Connect a Ride program, which is the transportation information referral program and our information program, and then Senior Helpline as well. I brought some program directories. The other thing that I did bring for the participants here is a tip sheet on tips for transporting passengers who have dementia. Just some. I'm sure that many of you out there are well aware of these tips, might be able to write your own tip sheets, but they're just some ideas for folks. And in fact, if you do have friends or neighbors that are helping you with your transportation challenges, this might be something that you could share with them.
Thank you, Sarah. DeAndrea Walker, who is Associate Director of Transportation here in Prince George's County. And within her job, she also operates the paratransit service, which includes call-a-bus, call-a-cab, and senior transportation and dialysis transportation. So, DeAndrea.
Thank you for having me here today. On behalf of the County Executive and Darryl Mobley, we appreciate being able to come out and speak with you all today. Even though we're Department of Transportation, we work very closely with Family Services and Teresa and her group. So some of these programs that you will hear me talk about are already set up, and we work closely with them to provide the services throughout the county. Currently, we provide about 48,000 homebound meals to seniors annually, currently right now. We're working to get more grants to increase that number. But we also provide over 120,000 trips to seniors and the disabled community here within the county. And we do that amongst several different programs, as we talked about earlier, where we partner with Family Services. We have 52 vehicles that are available to the county. The county executive during last year's budget allowed us to put more money in the budget to provide more vehicles because he understands the need that we have here in the county. We also are continuing to go after grants to be able to expand our service and get some software so that we could provide more efficiencies with the service. One of the things that we have right now is it's called a demand response, curb to curb. So when you see our caller buses out there, we go curb to curb. You'll probably hear Mr. Augustine talk about Metro Access, and they do door to door. So we provide a little bit of a different service. You can call our service. It's open to all residents of Prince George's County, but priority is given to the seniors and the people that are disabled. So we have the senior transportation service, where we provide trips for seniors to go to different activities throughout the county. You can register through Family Services, or you can call our 800 number, our local number, and register for that service. We have the nutrition program, which is mainly registered through Family Services, and they work with us. And once you get registered through them and approved by them, we will set up a process where we will either take meals to your home. We also have a medical program service where we provide dialysis trips for residents within the county. And we also have the general transportation that's open to all residents, but again, the priority is given to seniors. We have a caller cab program. I heard you talk earlier about the caller cab program. We do have a caller cab program, and we have been authorized to expand that program even more. Our caller cab program allows you to buy 20 tickets at a 50% discount if you are a senior. So we do have that program available, and we have information in the back of the room for that program as well. So right now, in order to apply for services to go back and forth in the county and use our caller bus service, there's a 14-day window where you need to call 14 days in advance, and you call the day before to make sure that we're still available to give you that trip. We have recently purchased some software where we're going to knock that 14-day period down. We've heard that that is a concern because people don't typically know 14 days out. So we are implementing a program where we will have software where that 14-day window will decrease. I can't tell you exactly how close it will decrease, but it will decrease based on the new software that we've been able to provide. So we are looking at other ways of trying to provide efficient services to the seniors within the county. And we're here and open today to take any feedback that you all have on how we could possibly do that. So that's a little bit about what we do here in Prince George's County.
Okay. Our final speaker on the panel is Malcolm Augustine, who represents Prince George's County as a board member with the Washington Metro Area Transit, WMATA. So,
thank you.
Malcolm, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much for having me. My name is Malcolm Augustine. I do represent Prince George's County on the WMATA Board of Directors. I thank you very much for the opportunity to be here and to speak to you all this morning. And of course, Senator Lawler for sharing her, letting me know about this and bringing me to this event. I'm very grateful for the opportunity to do that. Metro Access is the first part that I will talk about for WMATA. And Metro Access is the ADA, American with Disabilities Act, compliance aspect of our Metro, our public transportation service. And Metro Access is a part of WMATA, Metro overall, which covers the entire Washington area, the region, from Maryland, obviously, into the District of Columbia, and then into Virginia. And Metro Access is set up to, in essence, provide the same level of service to people with disabilities, including cognitive, that the other citizens would have. And that service, though, mirrors the public transportation service, which is an important thing for people to keep in mind. That's where it becomes more of a shared ride service, which is similar to, again, if you think it through, to the bus or to the rail system. This is why most times people find themselves in buses and are sharing rides with other people. The other way that it mirrors it, this is another important point, is that we build these circles, one of which would be 3/4 of a mile, to wherever the fixed route may have been. That would be a route where the bus may have gone or where the train may have gone. And that represents the area of service. So people who can be picked up from within those circles, 3/4 of a mile of those fixed route services. Now, there is some confusion in our area because there is a group of people who WMATA, before they implemented this process, that's not the right word. They implemented the program system-wide, basically more so just covering our entire region. And those people are called grandfathered into the program. And they're grandfathered into the program because they don't have to meet those 3/4 of a mile requirements. Those people who are grandfathered in, who may have received the service in 2010, between 2009 and 2010, and utilized the service in that period, will keep that. They'll keep the ability to do that even if they move within the region. But for those who did not, it is the shared service, and it is 3/4 of a mile that it covers. The cost of Metro Access is typically 2 times the cost of the fare for the regular public transportation, up to $6.50. So that is, in essence, the cost. It's a similar situation to what DeAndre was talking about as far as being able to make appointments to receive the service and also to set up the service on a schedule, which you can do. There are resources for that. And I'll just share that I have left flyers about Metro Access in the back, as well as travel training, which I'll talk about in just a moment. Particularly for those with the cognitive impairments, I think it's important to also share that Metro Access does allow for you to bring along a PCA, a personal care assistant, free of charge, if in the qualification and the eligibility, it's, we realize, and actually not if you are eligible, it doesn't matter how. If you are eligible for Metro Access, you are allowed to bring that personal care assistant along. And that's just important for people to know. I've heard, many people express some concerns, particularly when someone is, having some diminished capacity issues about their care, and not wanting to have that person be, out there by themselves. You can also, if it is not a personal care assistant, but it is a companion, you may also bring a companion for these rides. Now, that companion will have to pay a fare, different than the personal care assistant, but when you're making the reservation, if you do that, then the companion will be able to ride along as well. Once again, I think that's an important piece as you are thinking about the care of your loved ones. It is a door-to-door service, which of course is meaning that they will come to the person's door. They will not go in. They will knock on the exterior door. The driver will knock on the exterior door. The person is going to have to then present. They will also pretend. You can also have it where they'll make a phone call as well. There are certain limitations as far as what they will do. Small tasks they can do, but that is the reason for the personal care assistant, for the ability to allow someone, if you have greater needs, to bring the personal care assistant along for it. The other thing that I think that is important is that there are training requirements for the Metro Access drivers that they have to, on a pretty regular basis, go through training to better able to work with the people who are riding and using this service. We take that very seriously. We think that that's just very critical. We also insist on certain background checks. And sometimes I receive pushback about that. I think that it's important that we do that, particularly when we have vulnerable people that, we should protect them, because unfortunately sometimes things do go wrong. And that hurts my heart, quite honestly, when it does. So we have to provide as much protection to those who are vulnerable in those situations as we can. And so that's something that we do. Now, the last thing that I'll talk about is the travel training. Metro Access is a good service, but it's also an expensive service, quite frankly. And as you all know, Metro collectively belongs to all of us. We all collectively pay for this. We believe in it, obviously, public transportation, but we want to be good stewards. And one of the things is that we want people to have as much freedom as possible. And so we have a program called Travel Training, where Metro has full-time people who will help people to better understand how to utilize the existing system where it is accessible. That be able to use the bus, able to use the train in ways that provide freedom for them. And also, obviously, it works out better for Metro too, and so it's free of charge for those who are conditionally eligible for Metro Access to utilize the fixed route systems, the bus and the rail, versus using Metro Access. The last thing that I will share with you is that there is currently a pilot going on here in Prince George's County. It's called Abilities Ride. And what this pilot is working to do, it's somewhat similar to what you've seen in the District of Columbia, where they moved certain individuals to basically a cab service, more of a door-to-door cab service where you can call in. It doesn't have sort of the same scheduling restrictions that people talk about with Metro Access and some of the other services that are out there. And this is in a pilot right now where some people are getting a chance to use that. I am hopeful that it will provide further freedom and flexibility for people. It's being assessed at this time. Certain people in the ADA community have had a chance to use that. And so I'm excited about that and hopeful that that will get further rolled out as we evaluate this program. So I thank you again for the opportunity to be here. I also did put some information on the back about the travel training and look forward to answering any questions that anyone may have.
I just wanted to point out a couple of critical things that the panel said. I think it's obvious that there are some really terrific resources for transportation in Prince George's County. It's also pretty obvious that it's a patchwork. There's a little bit here, a little bit there. And for any individual planning trips, it really does take some hard work, some homework, some planning ahead of time to make it all work. So it's not easy. So think about those things as you go into your small groups, and also think about where there are gaps, where there are missing services that would be valuable to you, to your loved ones, to your friends and neighbors, that could help fill some of the gaps that you may have identified as you heard these really good presentations. Don't forget the handouts in the back. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Claudia Thorne and ask her to help us prepare for the small group discussion. So, Dr. Thorne?